The Perseus drift never held one face for long. Today it looked bruised, violet nebulae smeared across black, with faint electric filaments where charged dust fought the void. The HSS Caldera moved through it with her running lights low and her civilian transponder broadcasting a clean lie: merchant, relief cargo, no teeth. Commander Mara Ivius didn't trust clean lies. They were the ones people died under. Next beacon's late, Helm reported. Rena Valers kept her voice level, but her hands hovered over the thrusters like she expected the lane itself to bite. Mara studied the nav plot. The Ravelin corridor should have been a staircase of pings. Instead, the next marker flickered once and went dark. How late? Mara asked. 30 seconds and widening. Passive sweep only, Mara said. No active ping. Sensors listened. The caldera was big for a freighter, 200 meters of cargo spine wrapped in harmless plating, but even big ships felt small in the drift's weather. Chief Engineer Soto came through in Mara's ear. You're throttling down again. I'm waiting, Mara replied. For what? For them to get eager. The nebula thickened. Stars dimmed behind gauze. On the holo, the corridor ahead looked empty. Too empty. The first ripple hit like a fist closing around the hull. The deck shuddered. A wrong vibration climbed through Mara's boots. Warning icons erupted. FTL spool interrupted, subspace drag detected, inertial compensation overcorrecting. Interdiction. Sensors snapped. Multiple nodes, forming a net. The caldera lurched, not from thrust but from resistance, as if space had turned to syrup. Rena fought the controls. Thrusters respond, but we're stuck. Because they want us stuck, Mara said, eyes on the tactical display. Points appeared around them. Faint at first, then brighter as they powered up. Web nodes. A lattice, placed with care. A cage you didn't see until it closed. Comms chimed. Priority override, Ops said. They're forcing a channel. Mara let it ring one extra heartbeat, then nodded. Put it through. The main screen filled with a mantis-faced Ketheri in crisp dark armor, mandibles adorned with polished rings. Behind him stood armored silhouettes, still as statues. Unidentified merchant hull, he said, voice smooth and practiced. You have entered a restricted security zone under contracted patrol authority. Cut engines. Reduce reactor output. Open your forward airlocks for inspection. Mara leaned back. Authority doesn't usually come with dead beacons. His mandibles flexed in a smile. Beacons fail. Accidents happen. Compliance prevents them. Rena's jaw tightened. Mara raised 2 fingers. Quiet, steady. Rena kept feathering microthrusters, measuring drag on every axis. You're Vraxel Keth, Mara said. The Ketheri's eyes narrowed with pleased surprise. My reputation travels. Good, Mara replied. Then broadcast your charter and client. If you're legitimate, you won't mind paperwork. A brief pause. Not refusal, calculation. My legal standing, Vraxel said, is the fleet around you. Comply, and your crew will be processed. Processed. A word meant to make a person picture airlocks opening. On the bridge, nobody panicked. The quiet wasn't fear, it was training. Mara's manifest was real. Water recyclers, habitat seals, antibiotic crates stamped for Vesternine's clinic. The other cargo was quieter, evidence tags, encrypted logs, and a hard case labeled spare couplings that weighed like sin. A strip of tape on her console read Count Herves, left by a captain who hadn't survived his last run. She kept it because it worked. Each heartbeat bought leverage. Time for Rena to map drag vectors, time for Ops to fake a power drop, time for Soto to listen for node harmonics through the hull. Fear spent seconds. Mara invested them. Somewhere beyond the nebula, families waited for answers, and she intended to return with them. Alive, intact, and believed. Mara kept her tone mild. Your interdiction web is overclocked. I did not request advice. You're drawing too hard to hold us, she continued, as if she were reading off a maintenance report. Your coils are heating. At this rate, A third of your net fails in under 2 minutes. Vraxel laughed. A merchant threatens me with numbers. Mara keyed a private channel. Soto. Soto answered instantly. His pushing the nodes hot. 90 seconds, give or take. Can we shorten that? A hint of satisfaction. If you let me harmonize. Not yet, Mara said. She studied the lattice. One section was denser near their port quarter, close, eager, aligned for boarding. Let him commit first. Vraxel leaned forward on the screen, filling it with predatory confidence. Open your airlocks. My skiffs are inbound. Resist, and I will vent your ship for sport. Mara let a breath out through her nose. I'm going to reduce visible power output, she said, calm enough to sound obedient. Don't mistake it for sabotage. He tilted his head. Finally. Sense. Mara cut the external feed. Ops. Bleed visible power. Route real output to capacitors. Make it look like we're kneeling. Aye. The bridge lights dimmed a fraction, the ship performing surrender. Under that dimness, hidden systems drank the stored energy in silence. Contacts, sensors called. 6 boarding skiffs. Fast approach. Masked by the nebula. Let them dock, Mara said. Rena looked at her. We fight on our terms, Mara finished. Cade's teams. Lieutenant Jalen Cade answered over internal comms, voice clipped and ready. Cargo corridor sealed. Decoy route lit. We're in position. Mara rose and walked to the forward viewport. The nebula outside glowed violet and cruelly beautiful. In it, engines flared, small sparks streaking toward them. The first skiff latched onto the caldera's forward airlock. The hull rang, a deep metallic tremor. A breach charge popped, felt more than heard. Status lights flashed amber. Mara didn't flinch. She keyed the external channel one last time. Vraxel, she said, soft, almost polite, are you sure you want to come inside? His answer was immediate, savoring the moment. I insist. Mara ended the call and spoke into ship-wide comms. Mark them. Across the caldera, corridor lighting slid from dim white to a thin strip of blood red, guiding the intruders forward like a runway into a storm. The breach alarms faded into a low, steady tone, the kind that told you the ship had accepted damage and moved on. In the forward corridor, the air shimmered as pressure seals locked into place, slicing the caldera into controlled segments. Lieutenant Jalen Cade watched the tactical overlay crawl across his visor, every friendly icon blue and still, every intruder red and moving exactly where he wanted them. First team is through, Cade murmured. They're cautious. Let them be, Mara replied from the bridge. Caution slows them. The boarding party advanced in a tight wedge, weapons up, visors glowing faint green. They expected screaming civilians, fumbling resistance, a quick march to the bridge. Instead they found silence, broken only by the soft hum of ship systems and the distant thud of their own boots. Corridor lights dimmed to a narrow strip along the floor, guiding them forward like a polite suggestion. One of the Ketheri clicked sharply. Scans. Interference, another answered. Localized. That was the first lie the caldera told them from inside. The interference wasn't localized. It was selective. Cade watched as their feeds stuttered, maps desynced, range-finding jittered just enough to make every corner uncertain. Hold, Cade whispered. The intruders passed a junction marked bridge access. The sign was new, slapped on 20 minutes earlier by a deckhand with neat handwriting. They took it without hesitation. The door slid open. Inside, a command center bloomed to life, holo displays, chairs, a panoramic viewport showing the nebula. Heat signatures registered as crew. A Ketheri raised his rifle. And the bulkhead slammed shut. Strobe light detonated the room in white pulses. An electromagnetic wash followed, sharp and brief. Weapons went dead. Armor lock seized. The intruders staggered, disoriented, as gravity shifted 15 degrees and threw them sideways. Drop it, Cade's voice echoed through the compartment, calm and human. Sit down. Live. 2 did. 1 didn't. He lunged, mandibles flared, and caught a shock baton across the thorax that dropped him mid-step. "Secure," Cade said. "No fatalities." On the bridge, Mara allowed herself a single nod. "Next wave." "Docking now," Ops replied. He sent heavier teams. Vraxel's voice cut back in, irritated now. "Your people are uncooperative." "You boarded without permission," Mara said. "That tends to sour negotiations." "You delay the inevitable," Vraxel snapped. "My ships are closing." Mara glanced at the tactical holo. He was right. The enemy formation tightened, cruisers drifting closer under the net's glow, guns angled just enough to be seen. A show for the non-existent cameras. "Soto," Mara said quietly. "In it," the engineer replied. "I'm feeding harmonics through the hull. They'll compensate." "Slow," Mara warned. "We want them hot, not screaming." "Understood." Below decks, the second boarding team cut in through a cargo bay. Their boots hit deck plating beside crate-stamped medical, water filters. The labels were crisp. Too crisp. "Check the seals," a Kethri ordered. The crate split open. Not with an explosion, but with a whisper. Panels peeled back and something small and dark spilled out, skittering into vents and shadows before scanners could lock. "Drones," the Kethri hissed. "Non-lethal," Cade said over the compartment speakers. "Mostly." A moment later, the bay doors snapped shut and the temperature dropped. Cold rolled in like fog, biting, numbing. Gravity flickered. The intruders slipped, hands scrabbling for purchase as floor magnetics cut out beneath them. "Fall back," one shouted. There was nowhere to fall. On the bridge, Rena spoke without looking away from her controls. "They're pushing the web harder." Mara watched the node readouts climb, amber edging toward red. "He wants us scared." "He's going to burn his own net," Soto said. 30 seconds to threshold." "Not yet," Mara said again. Vraxel's face returned to the screen, mandibles rigid. "Enough games. Surrender now, or I vent your ship." Mara leaned forward. "If you vent us, you lose the cargo you want and the broadcast you planned. You're not a butcher, Vraxel. You're a performer." His eyes flashed. "You presume much." "I read people," she said. "You need witnesses." Silence stretched. In it, Soto's harmonics nudged higher. The web hummed, an audible vibration crawling through the caldera's frame like a held breath. "Third team neutralized," Cade reported. "Minimal injuries. They're confused, "Good," Mara said. "Confusion travels." A warning chimed. "Node Cluster 6 is spiking," Ops said. "Let it," Mara replied. The enemy fleet drew closer, overlapping fields for intimidation and control. They were compact now, confident in numbers and proximity. Vraxel wanted the moment on record. Mara's gaze moved to the sealed indicator labeled spine. Hidden systems drank deep, silent and patient. "Soto," she said, low. "Prep the lance. Keep it dark." A pause, then, charging. Below decks, a young medic knelt beside a stunned boarder, sealing a cracked carapace with quick, practiced hands. The Kethri stared up, eyes wide, struggling to reconcile gentleness with captivity. "Why?" he asked, voice thin. The medic didn't look up. "Because you're bleeding." On the bridge, Mara closed her eyes for half a second and counted heartbeats. The net glowed. The enemy waited. The caldera held, a coil wound tight. "Commander," Rena said softly. "They're locking hard." Mara opened her eyes. "Then," she said, voice steady as steel, "they've stepped close. Silence fell across the bridge, not the absence of sound, but the kind that came when everyone knew the next order would change the shape of the day. The interdiction web glowed hot on the holo, its nodes bright as coals pulled too long from a forge. Enemy ships clustered closer, confident, overlapping fields like shields at a parade. "Hard lock initiated," Ops said. "They're dumping power into the net." Mara felt it through the deck, a low-frequency tremor climbing the hull. Space itself resisted them now, The caldera pressed into a grip that tightened by the second. "Sotto," Mara said. "Capacitor's full," he replied. "Lance is ready. If we fire now, the cascade will be violent." Mara's eyes flicked to the internal feeds, Cade's teams moving with practiced efficiency, surrendered boarders seated and bound, wounded stabilized. The ship was as ready as it would ever be. "Do it," she said. Sotto exhaled once. "Firing." There was no beam. No flash. The Gravenal lance announced itself with a distortion, a momentary wrongness that rippled outward like a stone dropped into black glass. The interdiction web reacted instantly, its field screaming as the inversion tore at their geometry. Nodes failed. Not all at once, one, then another, then three in quick succession, the lattice snapping apart in a chain reaction that raced through the net. Power surged where it shouldn't, spiked where it couldn't be contained. "Cascade!" Sensors shouted. Enemy ships closest to the web lurched as forces they weren't built to feel twisted through their frames. A frigate sheared along its midline, armor peeling back like bark as it spun into debris. Two escorts clipped each other, shields flaring brilliant white before collapsing into expanding clouds of metal and vapor. A cruiser tried to correct, thrusters flaring too hard, its own exhaust tore it sideways into the dying net, where it crumpled and went dark. On the bridge, the caldera surged free as the drag vanished. Rena caught the motion, hands dancing, bringing them into clean space with a pilot's grace. "FTL still cold," Ops said. "We don't need it," Mara replied. The enemy formation shattered, confidence dissolving into frantic vectors and overlapping distress calls. Comms lit up with panicked chatter, orders shouted over each other, systems failing faster than crews could respond. "Deploy drones," Mara said. Cargo panels slid open along the caldera's spine. What spilled out was not a swarm so much as a thought made metal. Hundreds of compact machines accelerating without noise, lights off, signatures slim. They fanned out with purpose, each carrying a task and nothing else. They did not chase ships. They blinded them. Comms arrays sparked and died. Sensor clusters went black. Weapon mounts froze mid-track, servos seized by precise strikes. In minutes, the enemy fleet was deaf, blind, and bleeding momentum. Vraxel's flagship loomed on the holo, larger than the rest, engines flaring as it tried to pull away. His face filled the screen, mandibles rigid, eyes wide with disbelief. "What are you?" he demanded. Mara met his stare. "The convoy you didn't get." He snarled something untranslatable and ordered a burn. The flagship surged, then stuttered as drones lanced its engine housings. Thrust collapsed. The great ship drifted, helpless, a predator with its legs cut out. Inside the caldera, a pocket of resistance flared. A Kethri boarder, cornered and desperate, charged Cade's line. Cade stepped aside, tripped him clean, and pinned him with a knee. "It didn't have to go this way," Cade said. The Kethri panted, eyes darting. "You were supposed to beg." Cade tightened the restraints. "We don't do that." Back on the bridge, Ops read off damage reports, enemy losses mounting, caldera scars acceptable. No hull breach beyond sealed sections. No fires out of control. The ship had paid, but not bled out. "FTL window opening," Rena said. "Hold," Mara said. Vraxel's flagship drifted amid wreckage, still intact enough to be identified, still alive enough to listen. Mara opened a channel, not to taunt, but to finish. "You ambushed relief ships," she said evenly. "You killed crews who never knew your name. This ends now." "You think you've won," Vraxel hissed. "My clients." "Your clients are recorded," Mara cut in. "Your contracts, your payments, your node serials. Neutrality doesn't like paperwork." Silence answered her, heavy and ugly. Mara nodded once. "Disable his life support to emergency levels. Leave him power for med and recorders." Ops hesitated. "Alive," Mara said. "Witness." The order went out. The flagship's lights dimmed, systems throttled back to the bare minimum. Vraxel's eyes flicked to his status readouts, understanding dawning with horror. "You could destroy me," he said quietly. "Yes," Mara replied. "We chose not to." Outside, the battlefield settled into a grim stillness. Wreckage drifted through violet haze, debris catching nebula light like embers. Drones returned, precise and tireless, redocking as if nothing extraordinary had happened. "Soto," Mara said. "Status." "Lance is cooling," he replied. "Frame stress within tolerance. We were close." Mara exhaled. "Good work." She stood and walked to the viewport. The drift looked the same as it had an hour ago, beautiful, indifferent, but something fundamental had shifted within it. Predators learned, or they vanished. "Commander," Cade said over comms. "All intruders secured. Medical teams standing by. Some of them, they're asking questions." "Answer what we can," Mara said. "And log everything." She turned back to the bridge crew. Faces tight with adrenaline, eyes bright with survival. "We're not done," she said. "But we're through the worst." Rena smiled, small and fierce. "Next move." Mara looked at the drifting flagship, at the broken net, at the silent lesson written in wreckage. "Now," she said, "we make sure the right people hear about it." The aftermath arrived quietly, as it always did. Wreckage drifted in slow arcs through the violet haze, fragments turning like coins in water. The caldera floated among them, scarred but whole, her hull stitched with fresh sealant where armor had burned and been closed again. Drones moved methodically, tagging debris, towing lifeboats, herding the stunned into survival bubbles. On the bridge, the adrenaline ebbed and left clarity in its wake. "Life signs stabilized," Ops reported. "Enemy survivors secured in pods. No uncontrolled leaks." "Medbay?" Mara asked. "Busy," came the answer. "But holding." Mara nodded. She stood from the command chair and let herself feel the ache in her shoulders. Winning never erased cost, it only decided where the bill landed. She opened an internal channel. "All hands, this is the captain. We're clear. Damage control continues. Medical has priority. If you're standing, help someone who isn't." The replies came back in steady voices. "Tired. Focused. Alive." Cade met her outside the forward airlock, helmet under his arm. His armor bore scorch marks and the faint white dust of sealant. "They're asking for you," he said. "Who?" "Their commander." Mara followed him through a corridor where the floor plate still bore scuffs from boots that didn't belong. Past a sealed hatch, a Kethari officer lay on a gurney, mandibles wrapped in a stabilizing brace. His eyes tracked her, sharp despite the pain. "You spared us," he said. "Why?" Mara stopped at a careful distance. "We stopped you." "That's not the same." "No," she agreed. "It isn't." She gestured to the medic, who adjusted a monitor and stepped back. "Your people surrendered. We honor that. And you're bleeding." The Kethari swallowed. "Vraxel won't." Mara's gaze hardened. "He already did." They left him with that. The enemy flagship hung nearby, a wounded Leviathan. Its lights glimmered at emergency levels, just enough to sustain life and record everything. Mara took a small team across, Cade, Ops, a legal officer whose job was to make truth stick. Vraxel waited on his bridge, restrained but upright, mandibles dull without their polish. The view behind him showed the drift, beautiful and merciless. "You could have ended it," he said without preamble. "Yes." "Then why am I still breathing?" Mara held his gaze. "Because endings teach nothing if no one sees them." His mandibles clicked once, bitter. "You think this will stop it?" "I think it will change it," she said. "Predators adapt. So do we." She placed a data slate on his console. "These are your contracts. Your routes. Your payments. We pulled them from your own systems while you were busy performing." Vraxel laughed, a dry sound. "Neutral councils will bury it." "They can try," Mara said. "We didn't send it to one council." She turned and left him staring at the slate, the drift reflected in his eyes. Back aboard the Caldera, Soto stood by the engineering console, sleeves rolled, hands steady despite the fatigue. "Lance is locked," he said. "Tech review flagged. It did what it was supposed to." And nearly tore us apart, Mara said. He nodded. That's physics. Then we respect it, she replied. We don't build gods. He smiled, faint. That's very human of you. The transmissions went out in layers. First to trade guilds and port authorities, clean packets with timestamps and signatures. Then to neutral observers, bundled redundancies that resisted quiet deletion. Finally, to public channels, proof without commentary. Facts had a way of making noise when released in bulk. The response rippled faster than rumor. Ports closed. Contracts froze. A dozen privateers went dark at once, scattering like fish sensing a net. Neutral spokespeople stumbled through denials that convinced no one. Shipping insurers rewrote risk tables in real time. On the bridge, Rena watched the feed scroll. They're arguing over who knew what. Mara allowed a thin smile. Good. Medbay called. Captain, one of the boarders wants to speak with you. Human. Mara went. The man lay propped against pillows, eyes bruised, arm in a sling. He swallowed when he saw her. I signed on for a paycheck, he said. They told us it was a clean grab. No civilians hurt. Mara listened. I'll testify, he added. If you'll let me. She nodded. We will. Later, as the Caldera's drones finished their work, Mara ordered a beacon deployed among the wreckage. It anchored itself to a shattered node, light steady, transmission wide and simple. What should it say? Ops asked. Mara considered the drift, the lanes it fed, the lives that depended on them. She thought of the tape on her console and the heartbeats it had bought. Say this, she replied. The beacon spoke, repeating in every trade tongue, calm and unadorned. Human ships do not surrender to pirates. Approach as allies, or don't approach at all. They let it run. When the FTL window opened, the caldera aligned and spooled. The stars stretched, the nebula smeared, and the battlefield shrank into a lesson written in debris and light. As the ship vanished, the beacon continued its steady broadcast, and the Perseus drift, bruised, watchful, remembered. ChatGPT can